Hello, everybody, and welcome to our Meal Solutions Monday class. My name is Joni Rampolla, one of the registered licensed dietitians with Giant and Martin's. And today we are going to be making a miso beef soba bowl, and that is in honor of Earth Month, which is the month of April. So all things sustainable, making a meal from plants. Glad you're here joining me. All right, so we are using Impossible Foods beef from plants, and this is their light beef, and it's our dietitian pick this month. So the meat is leaner. It's a good source of protein, fiber, iron, B vitamins, zinc, and potassium. And it's a one-on-one substitute for traditional beef, but better for the planet. It uses, and this is from their website, 96% less land, 87% less water, and 89% less greenhouse gas emissions than beef from a cow. Each 4-ounce serving has the same amount of protein as an 80-20 lean ground beef, so it's 19 grams of protein, but it doesn't contain any animal hormones or antibiotics. Impossible beef can be used in any recipe that calls for meat, such as tacos or sliders or chili or lasagna, you name it. If you make it with ground meat, you can substitute this for regular beef in the recipe. All right, so we are going to be making miso beef soba bowl. And if you see at the bottom, it takes longer than 30 minutes to make. So I did some of the prep ahead of time, so it'll go a little bit quicker. This recipe earns 2 guiding stars. And you know I always love to talk about guiding stars. So Guiding Stars, if you're in our store, is our nutritional navigation system to help you quickly find foods that are better for you. And by better for you, that means they have more vitamins, minerals, fiber, whole grains, omega-3 fatty acids, and they have less saturated fat, trans fat, added sodium, added sugar, artificial color. If you're physically in a store, you can look for the shelf tag and find a guiding star right to the right side of the price, as you see kind of in this picture demonstrated. If you are online, you could find it when you click on an item individually and scroll down to the nutrition information. If it has a guiding star, it will be there. And 1 star is good, 2 stars is better, and 3 stars is best. And in Savory, they actually rate whole recipes in this system. So we are making a recipe that earns guiding stars. And I think that is amazing. I love that because not all recipes are. All right, this is the ingredient list, and there is a lot of ingredients here. So it's the Impossible light ground beef meat from plants, soba noodles, avocado oil, yellow onion chopped, 3 cloves of garlic minced, 1 tablespoon of fresh ginger root minced, 1 medium eggplant halved and sliced thin, 1 cup of shiitake mushroom sliced, a yellow bell pepper, a red bell pepper, both thinly sliced, 1 tablespoon of white or yellow miso, 2 teaspoons of sesame oil, 2 tablespoons of rice vinegar, 1 teaspoon of honey, and 2 tablespoons of water. And it's topped with a green onion as just a garnish. And that was my reminder to start preheating my pan. I just turned my oven on. So in the steps, the first step is to make the miso sauce. And you combine miso paste, rice vinegar, sesame oil, honey, and water in a bowl, mix until combined and set aside. I did that step ahead of time, so I already mixed those things, but I'll show you the products I used. Then you prepare the soba noodles according to package directions, and I already have my noodles cooked. I did that. So we're actually going to start today at step 3. So we're going to cook the impossible beef. And how we do that is we're going to start by adding the avocado oil to a nonstick pan. When the pan is preheated, add the onion, garlic, ginger, and cook for about 2 minutes. Then we're going to add the impossible light ground beef and cook until nicely browned. And I think that's so interesting, nicely browned, right? It's not meat, it's plants, and it browns. That's amazing. I'm interviewing them on Table Talk on Wednesday so we can find out how that happens. And then you cook that about 5 minutes, remove it from the pan. Then in the same pan, we're going to add our veggies, eggplants, mushrooms, bell peppers, and cook about 8 minutes until tender. And then we're done. Let's start cooking. I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a moment. All right. There we go. Thank you. So I mixed my miso paste. You know what? I'm not going to start there. I'm going to start with putting stuff in the pan. Then while it cooks, I'll show you what I use to make the miso paste. So we're going to add avocado oil. And I just bought regular straight up avocado oil from the store. Going to heat up the oil in a pan. I never measure oil. I just pour it in, but you can follow the recipe. It's let's see, I think a tablespoon. No. Yeah, tablespoon of avocado oil. I just did a little pour. I like the way I measure. So we put in the oil, let that heat up a little bit. Then we're going to add onions. I don't like dicing onions. I like to buy them already diced for me. Just makes it easy. I hit the easy button with onions so I don't cry because I always cry. So let's see how much onions. Half of an onion. So I'm going to add, what's about an onion? I'll say about a quarter of this. All right, I'm going to call that about half an onion. Put this down. And then we are going to add the garlic. So I bought a garlic clove, and then it calls for 3 individual cloves. So I have a garlic press, and yes, I have a boo-boo on my thumb, so I covered it. I bought a garlic press, and then I have 3 individual cloves. I'm going to stick in the press and mince that garlic right in the pan. And a garlic press keeps all the stuff you don't want in there, like the casing of the garlic, right? It captures that so that doesn't go in your pan. And then my third one. All right, we have onion in there and garlic in there. And next was ginger. So let's see how much ginger is in there. 1 tablespoon. So I actually measured that out and I'm going to put it in there. And while I do that, I just want to show you ginger. So I got one that was just a ton of these little giant strands. But you break off the piece that you want. I had a spoon. I don't see my spoon right now. All right, well, you get a spoon is the best way to do it. I don't have a spoon. You can use a vegetable peeler and peel it with a vegetable peeler to get the skin off, but that actually sometimes takes some of the flesh too. So I just get a spoon, and this is not a spoon, this is my knife cover, I know. But you just lightly scrape it with a spoon. And as you can see, like it just peels the skin off. If you can see that, just that little scraping. And then it all just comes off. And then you can mince it with a knife. I tried to mince it in my garlic press because I thought it minces garlic. Why not do ginger? But it didn't work for me. If you ask online if it can do that, it says it can, but it didn't work for me. Only juice came out. I had no, I'm calling it garlic. I meant ginger. Only juice came out. I had no actual ginger. But just wanted to show you that, what ginger looks like in the store. Maybe just mix this up a little bit. So we're just getting this translucent, which it looks like it just about is. Then we're going to add to it the impossible beef. Now when I show you, oh, there's my spoon. The beef was hiding my spoon. And I just want to show you this package, Impossible Beef. And I don't know if it looks backwards to you or not, but what it actually says is 19 grams of protein, 0 milligrams of cholesterol, 33% less saturated fat. But I looked at this and I saw OMG. I'm like, OMG, 33%. Like, what is it calling out? Oh my God. That wasn't what it says, but I just thought that was funny because that's what I saw, OMG, but it's 0 milligrams of cholesterol. You know, you see what you want to see sometimes. But yes, let me just open this and we're going to put our beef in. And it's not beef, it's plants. But yes, just showing you the color. It looks red. You can't tell, like by looking at it, you can't tell that it's not beef. It looks very much like beef at this point. Just want to make sure I can get it out. Oh, as soon as it hits the pan, you smell that garlic, onion, ginger. The aroma comes up as we're cooking it. Let's see if I can move these so you might, yeah, you really can't see it anyway. But I'm just mashing it up in the pan. I'll show you as soon as it's cooked so you can see what it actually looks like. And this cooks somewhere like 5 to 8 minutes. It gets done relatively quickly. Just kind of breaking it up in the pan. So that it cooks evenly. The smell is really incredibly awesome. And while this cooks for a minute, we are next going to add in the vegetables. So one of the vegetables is an eggplant and it calls for half of a small eggplant. I got a giant eggplant. So I cut it in half. And then that half I cut in quarters. So I have two of them. One I already sliced. This one I still need to slice. Since this is so big, I think I'm only going to use half an eggplant instead of the whole eggplant. So I'm going to let this cook in the pan. I'm going to cut up a while my eggplant. Kind of chop up all the little chunks so it cooks evenly. All right, now I'm going to finish cutting the eggplant we started. And it just said thinly slice the eggplant. So I'm just making thin little slices. And we're all going to go in our miso bowl. And that's just kind of what a slice is looking like. And again, I'm only using half the eggplant because I happen to buy a giant one. I did a direct order and they picked it out for me and it's absolutely beautiful. It's just giant. All right, we got that done. And another of our vegetable the shiitake mushrooms, and I bought them already sliced. They are washed and sliced in there. Oh, I have my miso paste. I made it already. So I just want to show you what goes in there. So this is white miso, and this is a giant container. I use 1 tablespoon, but just so you could see what it is. And it has some rice vinegar in there, and this is the brand that I found. What else is in there? Sesame oil. Have just a little sesame oil. And then honey. I'm at the end of my honey. I just have Nature's Promise raw and unfiltered honey, the one I like. And all of that gets mixed together, and that's what makes the miso. And I just want to show you this because you can see it's browning. You could still see some red spots in it, but it's browning. And there is another brand that makes ground meat from plants as well. And I can't tell you, when I was first promoting them, because that was the first one that we had in the store, people would come back and be like, I burn it because I was trying to get rid of that red juice. It's like, yeah, that's beet juice, that it doesn't turn brown, it just stays red. But this one actually turns brown. And I think that's rather cool. All right, let's see what we do next here. So once it browns, I'm going to remove it from the pan and we're going to cook our veggies separately. So I think I just need 1 more minute and then we'll be there, and I'll put it in. I'm just going to put it in. Ooh, something's on my computer. It looked like something was in my bowl. Put it in this bowl here, and then we're going to cook our veggies. Just make sure it gets all brown. Chopping it all up. All right, I'm going to transfer. Too far away. How to get closer to transfer. Do it here so you can see it. And that is our meat and all those good seasonings in there. And then we are going to come back and cook our veggies. So I'm going to put the meat back here. We're going to add that back in shortly. Now we're going to add the eggplant. So all of this, and add back in there. Cook up some eggplant. We're going to add the sliced shiitake mushrooms. I'm just adding the container. I might give just a splash of oil in there again. That's my avocado oil. And then bell peppers. So I sliced a red and yellow bell pepper. They're both pretty thin. Tried to make them bite size. And we're going to dump these in there. So this takes about 5 minutes to cook. So I see we have about 10 minutes left. So when this is done cooking 5 minutes, we're going to add back in the beef mixture, or beef from plants mixture. And then I cooked some soba noodles. Soba noodles. And let me just show you what soba noodles looks like. So this is the package. And the package has 9.5 ounces. and the recipe called for 8 ounces. So I left some in there. So soba noodles traditionally is buckwheat, so they're gluten-free. This brand is not. It's half buckwheat and half wheat flour. But you can find some gluten-free. I wasn't even looking at that when I picked it up. I assumed that soba noodles were all buckwheat. But buckwheat does not contain gluten, and buckwheat is higher in protein and higher in fiber than white pasta. So even with this mixture, it still contains per serving 12 grams of protein and 4 grams of fiber. So it's pretty darn good. And they're lower calorie than traditional pasta. But yes, so that's a soba noodle. It's like a darker brownish color. So you divide the noodles into bowls. This recipe makes 4 servings. So I'm just going to take some of this out and put it in a bowl. If you wanted to substitute traditional pasta, spaghetti, like you're welcome to. But this is just my bowl waiting to put the topping on it, getting ready. And I need a couple more minutes for my veggies to soften. That's what they look like while they're cooking. Interesting recipe. Yes, thank you. Viewing with background blurred. I don't have my blur on. I do see it looks a little bit blurry. I don't know why that is, but I'm not blurry, but I don't have a blurred background on. All right, I'm going to take the beef from plants and add it back in. And if for Earth Month you wanted to have a delicious plant-based recipe, this is a good one. Gonna stir that up. And let's see, that should cook for a couple more minutes. I'll let it sit for a minute. And then what we do, we're gonna add the miso sauce to that mixture and then put it on top of our pasta in our bowl. And then it would be ready to eat. And then we're gonna garnish it with green onions. So that is what a green onion looks like. I guess a single one. So I cut off the roots or fingers, as I call them, the roots of it. Could eat the white part and the green part. Both are edible. So cut it up, and that is going to be my topper for once it gets in the bowl. All right, I'm going to add my miso paste or miso dressing paste mix I did. And if you remember, that dressing had just a little bit of honey in it, so it adds a slight touch of sweetness, which makes it really good. Gonna stir that around. And then plate it on my noodle bowl. Sprinkle just a couple green onions on there. And maybe even a little sesame seeds would be delicious. And that is our miso Soba bowl with Impossible Foods beef made from plants. Looks delicious. I know what I'm having for lunch today. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much for joining me today. Love cooking with you, and I hope it's a recipe you try or I bring some inspiration to you. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you so much. Bye, everyone. Thank you. Yes, thank you. Have a good day. Bye.